You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to part 3 of the Cricket Podcast. We're switching gears. We've been all IPL, all action, impact subs, sixes hit all over the place, Shubman Gill, fireworks, Dhoni, legacy. I suppose legacy is the thing that we can use as a juncture to the next part of the show. We're going to be talking England v Ireland, the beginning of the English Test summer. Russ, it's finally here. It's June. It's warmed up. The home of cricket, HQ, is ready to host people. They've done up St John's Wood Station in preparation for this match. Are you excited? Are you looking forward to a slightly more bucolic period of time here at Cricket Podcast Towers?
I quite enjoy Test match cricket, and I'm going to it on Friday. I think in terms of a bit of an entree to the Ashes, I think bringing Ireland over is. Yeah, it's fine. It's kind of a glorified kind of county championship game. It kind of feels like.
Get everyone. That's going to annoy everyone.
But what is really interesting about this is that you look when England in kind of the cricket kind of play, so the likes of Bangladesh play Ireland in kind of World Cups and things like that. England typically underestimate teams in that position, and for them to turn around and kind of. I don't know, an upset is always on the cards on games like this, but at the moment it'd be interesting to see how England go about it. It could be an absolute bloodbath, right? It could England could go out and smash some of the bowling all round, because you can't tell me that the front line attack of Ireland is going to be as good as kind of the Australia ones, right? Obviously, but that doesn't mean that this high risk. Kind of high reward approach is infallible, and maybe it's difficult to get up for playing against Ireland when you've got Australia just around the corner. There's also debuts for Josh Tongue. There's Johnny Bairstow coming back from injury, so there are kind of question marks over the lineup. But ultimately, I think England will absolutely batter them. But there is a chance for an upset.
We'll get to some of those. We'll get to some of those points in a second. I suppose, Dan, a question for you would be around some of the statements coming out of England. Obviously, they're pretty confident. They've won, 9 out of 11 matches since Brendan McCullum took over. One of the ones they lost was by a run. The other one they lost was, I think that was at Lords, wasn't it, against South Africa? So maybe this is a ground that doesn't suit them. Are they right to be as confident as they are, or are they, getting high on their own supply to some extent at the moment?
The jury's out, to be honest with you. I'm genuinely not. I'm not sold either way on this, for want of a better phrase, Bazball and stuff like that. Yes, they've won a lot of games, which traditionally hasn't been the case for England in Test cricket. But I think there's circumstances as to why they've won a lot of games. For example, they go away to Pakistan, and Pakistan decided that in their infinite wisdom they were going to provide some roads, which was probably the worst idea in the world. So really testing strengths, and I think the home series against New Zealand, I think New Zealand didn't have the kind of full strength team out as well. So there are circumstances behind it as well. I think that one of the main things I'm looking forward to both this summer and this year is that we're going to find those answers out, because the Ashes at home and then India away provides a fantastic test for this new world, if you like, that England are saying that they're doing. Could they fall flat on their face? They absolutely could. Could they go out and smash it? They absolutely could. And that's the fantastic dynamic that's ahead of us for the rest of the year, because we don't know. And that's what I think, for me, the most enticing thing. I'm going to be honest with you, and I think that kind of I'm in line a little bit with what Ross was saying. I struggle to get myself up for a game against Ireland, a Test match against Ireland. I'm going to be honest with you, I'd much rather watch the Blast games, to be honest. And
well, lucky that's your job.
That helps too. But it's true though. I mean, I don't want to see a game where probably like realistically, if you take a rain affected draw out of the question, because there's no chance it's going to be a draw. The favourite is about. That's why I love franchise leagues, because with a level budget, there's jeopardy in terms of the match result. It might have been relegation or whatever, but there is in terms of match result. You don't know who's going to win. You know, a really good team can play a really bad team, and it might be like 60-40 or 65-40, 35 to win the match. I'm not interested in a match where it's like 98-2. Like, that doesn't interest me at all. I think the only time it would really interest me is if like Ireland had a really good start, and then they kind of did, like, obviously a couple of years back. But yeah, that would be the only time I would really like dial in and try and watch it.
Ross, there's a little bit of team news to do, but I think it's an interesting debate that Dan kind of opens up there. Do England not have a little bit of a responsibility to play some of these smaller nations if you want to see Test cricket survive and thrive, sharing the wealth to some extent, even if that's only in terms of exposure and not in terms of actual wealth? That maybe should be something that they should do. No,
I think so. But then you can argue that just having a one-off Test match actually kind of doesn't really mean much anyway. Like, one game is one game, right? If it was I think most Test series should be 3-game series. But that's obviously sometimes difficult to do with the kind of finances involved. I do think that the introduction of the World Test Championship has actually been probably beneficial for it. It's actually given people something to play for, rather than just kind of pointless kind of bilateral ODI series that we kind of see and people hang their hat on and say, look how good we are. But when push comes to shove to actually win a trophy, certain countries fall short. Other countries, like the mighty England, win and are double world champions. But I think when it comes to Test match cricket and Ireland playing England, I think this is where we could start to see the introduction of a 2-division World Test Championship on that front, and actually trying to introduce that and trying to do more in that space, and providing the funding to get the likes of Zimbabwe, Bangladesh, Ireland, Namibia, whoever it's going to be, actually playing in what should be actually quite a competitive league, rather than it being kind of a much wider kind of Super League at the top.
That's a fair point. Should we talk a little bit about team news? So England, they're going to be without Anderson, who has like a mild injury / is being rested. Robinson as well. He kicked a bin, I think, and twisted his ankle. So
that's a very classic Ollie Robinson thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was it
so
a deliberate kick or an unlucky one?
I'm not sure. So he did it, and then Sussex sent him out to bowl an 8-over spell, and then he left the ground in a boot. That's England fast bowler maintenance all over, isn't it? Like, it's like freak accident, overworked, completely preventable injury, out for the season. But no, it's supposed to only be this match, which means that England had a couple of choices to make, or one big choice. Well, no, I think the first choice was they had to ring up somebody and they had to say, would you like to come and play some cricket for England? And the person they chose to ring up was Josh Tong. Is it Tongue or Tong? I've always said Tong.
I think we have to call it Tongue.
Dad, do you know?
I don't. I'm really, really sorry. But what
I'll call him
Tongu.
I'll call him Tong. You call him Tongue, Ross. I think we've got both bases covered. Yeah.
I'm going with Tongue.
Yeah. It's spelt Tongue.
Yeah, that's it's the same spelling as the body part. So
okay. Anyway, they rang up Josh Tong and they said, "Come play some cricket." And then they had to choose between him and Wokes, and they went with Tong Tongue. Are you looking forward to seeing him play? Do you know anything about him? Well, I'm assuming you do, but like that was that aimed at me. That was directed at you, Ross, and then Dan was going to tell us all about him. That was the flow of the conversation.
Yeah, so I've been doing a bit of reading around him. Obviously, he looks like he's a pretty good player. I think he averages about 26 with the ball, which I think is pretty decent. Takes wickets. I think he's also got that yard of pace, which maybe some of the other people in their battery don't. He struggled with injury as well, based upon some of the articles I was reading. But am I right in saying Danny's a left armer?
Josh Tongue is right.
I wanted him to be a left armer. I always just wanted a left arm fast, but never mind. But I think it's good that we're trying new things out. I think it was great that Matt Potts came into the team last year, and I thought he did reasonably well. And yeah, we've got to start blooding in some potential people to actually fulfill what is quite a difficult roster, especially with kind of injuries that kind of go through. And yeah, this is a pretty safe environment to do so.
Fair enough. Dan, what can you tell us about Josh Tang Tong?
So obviously, as Ross said, he's had a lot of injury problems. From what I understand, it was, really, quite difficult to see a career actually at some points during that. I think what England have done is that they are just enthused by the fact that he can bowl pretty quick.
He's got Steve Smith out as well, didn't he? So
that makes all the difference. The biggest problem for me is twofold. One, the guy averages 42 in Division 2 in the last 1 and a bit years. Now that for me is it's not great. And people will turn around. I've had this conversation with people inside cricket, and some people really agree with me. Some people disagree with me, and that's fine. We're one type's opinion. And some people say, okay, Test cricket's a different game to county cricket, and they're right. Of course, they're right. But if you're averaging 42 against journeymen in Division 2, and then you're going to be thrown into, Ireland probably have some journeymen too, so you might actually see them take wickets, and people might go, oh, wow, he's the next best thing. If you're averaging 42 in Division 2, good luck with that against Steve Smith and Labuschagne and world-class batters, because they're better than Division 2 batters by quite a long way, apart from the fact that they play in Division 2 on occasion. You know what I mean, though. You know what I'm trying to say. Though. The standard is significantly elevated, and for me, that's that. I don't think that's a great decision. One, in terms of sort of thorough process and meritocracy, but two, the optics behind that. In terms of if you're a county bowler, well, how must Sam Cook feel right now? This guy takes wickets year after year after year after year. He's unbelievable at hitting good areas. And people say, well, yeah, doesn't bowl quick. Well, okay, Mohammed Abbas doesn't bowl quick, but he's got an amazing test record, and Pakistan thinks should still pick him. Glenn McGrath wasn't really that quick, but he was an unbelievable pacer.
Yeah, and James Anderson, not really that quick.
Yeah. So, and ultimately, if you don't find the next Anderson and the next Broad and blood them now, when it comes to replacing them, you're going to get rookies coming in. So for me, it's a no-brainer to have integrated Sam Cook into this, and I feel pretty sorry for him actually.
Yeah, I think England, even since they kind of got a little bit better at doing things and they've come up with a bit of a plan over the last year or so, they still quite like the lottery ticket pick, don't they? I mean, we haven't even talked about Crawley. It's still like, yeah, but what if he did turn out to be Donald Bradman with Zach Crawley, isn't it? And I think with bowlers as well, it's maybe they're drawn to this kind of idea of what the bowler could be rather than what the bowler maybe is. What I would say in defence of England, though, and I think this applies to fast bowlers particularly, I think much less so batters and spinners, that if you think a guy is good enough for Test cricket or for international cricket in general, I think with fast bowlers, there's some justification for saying you should just get them in as soon as possible. They're so injury prone and form comes and goes. And it is so fitness related that if you think a bowler has it at that moment, maybe if you wait 6 months, they've picked up an ankle injury and they've lost 5 yards, 5 miles an hour, or they've lost a little bit of zip, or whatever. Don't tend to be really long careers for the guys who bowl super fast. So maybe there's a bit of that in there as well. Do you want to make some predictions and then we'll wrap up the show? I am going to say England will win this one.
Both pick that.
I don't know if it'll be 2 days. I think that will depend. If they bat second, I think it could be 2 days. If they bat first, I think that it won't be. But yeah, that's my prediction. Ross?
I think Ireland will put up a bit of a fight. I think they'll be really disappointed about kind of what happened last time they were at Lords, and there'll be a real kind of bit between their teeth to kind of make that difference. I think the weather is supposed to play an impact on it. It's supposed to be a beautiful, sunny kind of 4 or 5 days. So yeah, I think it could well be the decent batting position batting conditions, and some of the Ireland batsmen are actually pretty good, and I think they know how to construct an innings, and they shouldn't go in there with fear. Where they might well struggle is in the batting department. England have got Johnny Bairstow all the way down at 7. There's a lot of batting before him to come. And I think that people like Joe Root and Stokes and people like that, they might not say out, but I think they would quite like a score to kind of start the summer off and build that confidence into this position. So yeah, I'll be very, very surprised if England don't try and hit about 900 runs against them.
Dan, are you going to go with Ireland to balance things out?
No, because I think it's just a complete mismatch. I think ultimately, if we're all in agreement, but I think in terms of how many days it gets done in and the kind of margins of victory it is the real debating point. I think Ireland are going to put up some kind of a fight. I still expect it to be pretty one-sided in the end, though. England in 3 days seems pretty reasonable.
Oh, fair enough. I'm looking forward to watching some of the Ireland players play, though. Well, I'll say that much. A lot of buzz around Harry Tector, isn't there? Be good to see him in action, and Lorcan Tucker as well. There's they're the two that I think I'm looking forward to. Right, we're going to wrap up, fellas. Like I said earlier in the show, if you are at the Test match or the World Test Championship next week, we're going to be around, aren't we? So drop us a message on Twitter at the Cricket Pod. And Ross will get his wallet out, or Max, who actually bankrolls the whole cricket podcast with his Euro Millions win, and he'll buy you a beer.
Is this the thing?
No. Goodbye, everyone.